Welcome to logbook number 12. The date is May 22nd, 2019. The last logbook was when I was still in Seoul. I still haven't moved on. But the topic for today is following your parents' advice. Basically, this topic was in my list and it's the only thing that I haven't crossed off yet. It's actually also a topic that appears in one of my IELTS writing practice tests. Children should always follow their parents' advice. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, I'm gonna argue my thoughts about that. So, regarding parents' advice, I've always followed my parents' advice, more or less. I've never been someone who is rebellious. So since I was in elementary, my mom told me to go to this school, I followed. When I was in junior high, she told me to go to this school, I followed. And then at one point in high school, both of my parents, my mom and my dad, told me to major in science, which I hated at that time. So back in junior high, I disliked social studies. But then once I entered high school, it switched because physics and chemistry are like, I veered to social studies, and they were sort of against that at one point, but they never really forced me to take science. They would say something like, oh, but in science you will have more options to choose from. And then I would answer, I only want one thing. Well, I don't need many options. I already know what I want, which is not science. And so managed to get into social science. And then when I wanted to enter the university, at that time I just got into K-pop, and I was like really fascinated with the whole Korean language and culture. So I sort of wanted to major in Korean studies. My mom said, oh no, you should choose something that you can already do instead of something that you are interested in, because there's a huge difference in doing what you like and what you already can do. So again, I followed what my mom said, so I chose English studies, and then fast forward 5-6 years later, I'm here. And then now it got me thinking that if I didn't follow my mom's advice about taking English studies instead of Korean studies, probably would be in Korea right now. But then again, if I didn't follow her advice, I probably also would be struggling in finding a job, because everything that I have right now has been handed to me, and I had to put a certain amount of effort that probably to some other people it doesn't look like I've worked or struggled enough to get to where I am, which I am grateful for. So there was this one student who actually texted me, one of my students from last year. She told me that she's majoring, let's just say she's majoring in science, and she's actually majoring in something that she doesn't like. She's actually more of a creative person. She likes making videos, making movies. Her parents are actually supportive of her hobby about making art and videos, graphic, whatever she's into, but they never trusted her with making that as her main job, or her main interest, or her, something to major in, because they keep telling her that you need a real job, you need a real major, you need to secure yourself and have something to fall back into, and not just focus on your hobby, which is making videos. And it was stressing her out, her subjects and her studies were stressing her out. And I told her to just tell her parents, but she said that she was always afraid to, because she knows what they're going to say, and she knows that she would get rejected anyway. And then I told her to write a letter, and this is actually something that I learned from one of the comics that I've read, which is Miko. when Miko felt like she couldn't tell her parents something, she would write a letter and have her parents read it, and then her parents will then know, and then her parents will actually talk to her. I think she did write a letter to her parents, but the results was the same. The parents still did not support her and kept telling her that you should try harder, you should study harder in your major to make sure that you pass and then you succeed. But you know, motivation comes from within. Like, even if you're pressured and if your motivation is to make your parents happy, if from within you don't feel like you want to do it, or you feel like you're not good enough, it's not gonna happen. So I am lost for words, so I don't know what else to tell her, because I don't want her to go against her parents. So the best thing I can do is like, you know what, okay, just follow your parents' advice so far, but if it gets too hard, I'm here, please talk to me. I'll do my best to like make you feel better. If you ask me to what extent you should follow your parents' advice, I would say if it's not harming anyone else, and if it's hurting you probably a little bit, but you still find the strength to struggle and keep going, and you still have the resilience, I would say just follow it. Going against your parents would be an extreme thing to do, and you only should do that if your parents are someone who's like evil, which I'm sure all your parents are nice, and parents just want the best for their children, I would say. I've been following my parents' advice so far, and I haven't gotten into a situation where it gets hard for me or it's as a result of following their advice. So you know what I mean? Like, as far as I'm concerned, the decisions that I made that are in accordance with their advice actually put me in a place that is nice enough. You know, I mean, as a human, sometimes you can be unhappy at moments, but it's not like it's the end of the world, you know. It's a pretty long rant about my own parents and my experience and my students' experience. As long as the advice is fine and they're giving that advice based on logic and good reasoning, and they just want the best for you, I would just say just follow them. And then once you've done what they want you to do, maybe you can do something else after that, and then everybody will be happy, hopefully. That's that for today. Logbook 12 is done. I'm signing out.